He never thought a single moment of kindness would turn his entire life upside down. It was a normal morning, coffee in hand, late for work, just another day. But then he saw her, a stranger, standing too close to the edge of the bridge, eyes lost, tears streaming down her face. Without a second thought, he rushed over. What happened next would change everything. This is the story of Daniel, a quiet, hard-working man who made a split-second decision that saved a life, but cost him his own. Not in the way you'd expect. He didn't die, but the fallout from that one act rippled through his job, his relationships, and his entire sense of trust. The woman he saved. She vanished the next day. No name, no thank you, just gone. And then strange things started happening. His boss questioned his story. Friends turned cold. Even his own family began to doubt him. Was it all a misunderstanding? Or was something much darker going on behind the scenes? The deeper Daniel searched for the truth, the more twisted it became. And just when he thought he'd found some answers, what he uncovered left him speechless. He saved a stranger. But what really happened that day? Stick around, because the truth will shock you. Daniel had always lived a quiet life. He wasn't the kind of guy who looked for trouble. He just worked hard, paid his bills, and kept to himself. He had a steady job at a small tech firm, a girlfriend he cared deeply about, and a few close friends who'd been around since college. Everything felt stable, until that day on the bridge. After he pulled the woman away from the edge, she barely spoke. Just a soft thank you, eyes wide with fear, before she hurried off down the street. He didn't even get her name. But from that moment, things started to shift. His boss called him into the office 2 days later, asking if he'd been involved in something serious. Apparently, someone had reported him anonymously, accusing him of lying, of making the whole rescue up for attention. Daniel laughed it off at first, thinking it was some kind of prank. But then, his girlfriend started getting strange messages. They claimed Daniel was hiding something, that he wasn't who he said he was. Even his closest friends began to question his version of events. Still, Daniel couldn't forget the woman's face, how lost she looked, how scared. And he couldn't shake the feeling that someone didn't want her to be found, all for the truth to come out. Daniel started digging. He couldn't let it go, not when everything around him was falling apart. He retraced his steps that day, hoping for a security camera, a witness, anything to prove what happened. But oddly, there was nothing. No footage from the bridge. No one else who remembered seeing them. It was like she never existed. That's when he noticed something strange. His phone's call logs had been wiped. Photos missing. Emails unreadable. It was subtle, but clear. Someone had gone through his data. At first, he thought maybe he was losing it. Stress, pressure, it was all piling up. But then he started noticing someone watching him. A man in a dark hoodie, always a few steps behind. Once at the grocery store, another time across from his office. Never close enough to confront, but always there. When he told the police, they took a report but didn't seem too concerned. No evidence, no crime. Meanwhile, his girlfriend Rachel was growing distant. She said she believed him, but her eyes told a different story. She was scared, and when one of Daniel's co-workers, Mark, who always had his back, suddenly stopped showing up to work, rumors started to fly. Whispers about Mark being involved. Whispers that Daniel had crossed a line. But what line? And why did saving someone put a target on his back? Daniel couldn't sleep. Every night felt heavier, like something was pressing down on his chest. The more he searched for answers, the more questions piled up. Mark's sudden disappearance turned out to be more than just a no-show. His apartment was empty, no forwarding address, no calls, no goodbyes. It was like he'd vanished into thin air. And when Daniel mentioned it to their manager, the reaction was oddly cold, like Mark had never even worked there. One night, Rachel didn't come home. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Then, a message popped up on Daniel's screen from an unknown number. Asterisk, stop looking, or you'll lose more. Asterisk, That's when he knew this wasn't just about the girl on the bridge. Something bigger was happening. He started connecting the dots. Missing files, strange surveillance, people disappearing. It felt like he was being erased, piece by piece. Desperate, Daniel broke into his old office late at night to find Mark's archived work files. But what he discovered was chilling. Documents marked confidential, names he didn't recognize, and a video clip buried deep in a folder. It showed the woman from the bridge, but not how he remembered her. She was standing in a meeting room, calm, confident, talking to the same man who had been following Daniel. Everything he thought he knew was about to collapse. Daniel froze, staring at the screen. The woman he'd saved, shaking, terrified, on the edge of that bridge, was now speaking confidently, as if she was in charge. Her tone was calm but authoritative, her name tag just barely visible. Dr. Eliza Wren, Behavioral Research Division. The man who'd been following Daniel was sitting beside her, nodding. It wasn't a random surveillance clip. It looked like a company briefing. But why was it hidden on Mark's computer? As the seconds ticked by, the video glitched, then cut to black. That's when Daniel heard the sound behind him, soft footsteps. He spun around, heart pounding, but no one was there. The office was still, silent, too silent. He grabbed a copy of the file and ran, feeling like any wrong move would be his last. Back at his apartment, he tried to tell Rachel what he found, but she wasn't alone. A man Daniel had never seen before stood in the corner, quiet, just watching. Rachel looked pale, scared. "You shouldn't have gone back there," she whispered. The man stepped forward. "You were never meant to see that video." That's when it hit Daniel. This wasn't about a rescue gone wrong. It was something darker. A test? An experiment? Was he being used the whole time? And if so, for what? Daniel stood frozen, locked in a stare with the man in his apartment. Everything was unraveling fast, too fast. He clutched the hard drive in his hand, his last piece of proof, as if it might protect him. The man stepped closer, calm and in control. "You weren't supposed to interfere," he said quietly. "The bridge, that was part of a controlled scenario." Daniel's heart raced. "You set that up?" he asked, barely believing the words coming out of his mouth. The man nodded. "A psychological study. We stage high-stress events to observe real-time decision-making. You were a subject, Daniel. You just didn't know." The pieces finally clicked. The woman wasn't a victim. She was part of the experiment. Mark had found out and tried to expose them, which is why he vanished. Daniel, by acting on instinct and refusing to let go, had uncovered something never meant to see daylight. But just when Daniel thought it was over, Rachel turned to him and said, "I'm sorry. They asked me to be part of it too. I didn't know it would go this far." Betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut. Daniel's heart raced. "He set that up?" he asked, barely believing the words coming out of his mouth. The man nodded. "A psychological study. We stage high-stress events to observe real-time decision-making. You were a subject, Daniel. You just didn't know." The pieces finally clicked. The woman wasn't a victim. She was part of the experiment. Mark had found out and tried to expose them, which is why he vanished. Daniel, by acting on instinct and refusing to let go, had uncovered something never meant to see daylight. But just when Daniel thought it was over, Rachel turned to him and said, "I'm sorry. They asked me to be part of it too. I didn't know it would go this far." Betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut. Before he could respond, the man calmly reached out. "We'll wipe everything. You'll forget. It'll be like none of this happened." But Daniel had already made a backup, and he wasn't about to forget. Daniel didn't run. He looked the man in the eye and said quietly, "It's too late. The backup's already out there." For a moment, the room went completely still. Then, without a word, the man turned and left, like he knew the damage was done. Rachel sat down, tears in her eyes, but Daniel couldn't bring himself to say anything. Too much had been broken. Over the next few weeks, the company behind the experiment started to unravel. Whistleblowers stepped forward. Hidden files surfaced online. People demanded answers about how they could run psychological tests without consent. Daniel watched it all unfold quietly from a distance. He didn't want fame. He just wanted the truth out there. Mark was never found, but Daniel never stopped searching. Rachel moved out, leaving only a note that said, "I hope one day you can forgive me." Maybe he could, but not yet. What started as an act of kindness on a bridge led to a web of lies, control, and betrayal. But in the end, it proved one thing: doing the right thing still matters, even when the world tries to twist it. Daniel saved a stranger, lost everything, but uncovered a truth no one was supposed to see.